Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
For those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests and our people with every measure at my command. Over the past few weeks,
Sorry, I don't buy it. I don't think anybody else really buys it. Are you blanking kidding me is the best way to describe this. Are you kidding me? 12 dead. 15 injured. That's what we know of. Let's remember, this is a fluid situation because there's still things going on in and about the town. There's still explosions. Are we blowing up some stuff that we left behind? How much stuff? Oh, stuff you could not believe. We'll get to that in a little bit. But once again, when given the opportunity, when given the chance, what did he do? Well, it's got to turn to the guy that was behind him.
Mr. President, there had not been a U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
Okay, just want to say this. Do you bear any responsibility? You're the president of the freaking United States. Do you bear any responsibility whatsoever? And I'm not talking about, hey, the guy before me did a deal. Yeah, okay, we get that. You guys did a deal with Iran when Obama was president, the largest state sponsor in the world of terror. You guys did a deal with them. Everybody else had to live with that deal. Trump got in, he got rid of that deal. A deal which, by the way, we all know they weren't abiding by. So, you're like, hey, guy before you, doing a deal, did a deal. So he goes and he does his deal. We all know what the Taliban's going to do. We all know exactly what to do. Hey, if they're going to do what they do, we get that. The thought is, hey, you know what? They'll fight other people that they, don't want in their country, and they'll kill each other, and we'll just let them all do that, right? Like that was the thought process. And if it gets out of hand, we'll go back in there. It wasn't about leaving. I applaud him for the effort to leave, that he kept on course saying, I'm going to leave. It wasn't about that. It was about the way you did it. It was about the half-assery of the way that you did it. It was about the fact when you said, the buck will stop with me, I'm super transparent. You had the opportunity. Asked you again, do you bear any responsibility? And more people are asking that question because, the buck stops with you, but hold on a second.
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. But here's the deal. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1.
That's fine. He thought he was going to be president. He wasn't. You are. You extended it. This isn't about him. He's not here. You are. You're the president. You're supposed to be the most powerful man on the planet. Act like it. You're not even like the movie Bad Grandpa with De Niro. At least he kicked some people's asses. We should be frustrated. Frustrated for a lot of reasons. Frustrated in ways that when you hear later, the stuff that they've got, the spoils of the war, they would call it. You should be frustrated, though, with the way that we've half-assed it with people that have helped us. The way that we waited till the final seconds to start to do some stuff, knowing full well what was coming. And I'm not talking about the Taliban. I'm talking about us getting out of there. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces.
Basically, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do.
That's fine. Again, it's not pulling out that was the issue. It was how you pulled out. It was the as I say, the half-assery, the job that you did wasn't very good. Knowing full well what the potential was. Knowing full well, we didn't think they were going to fall apart in a few hours. Really? Did anybody think for a second, for a hot second, that they were going to last that long? Honestly, Stevie Wonder could see it. It wasn't going to work. The people that want to rule have the guns. The people that want to live don't. Being there for as long as we didn't need to be. Not without a clear objective. And if the clear objective was, we're not going to let anything rise up here and cause the Middle East to become even more unstable, and for them to basically export evil and bad crap to the world, we're going to leave a skeleton crew with military contractors. All right, I'm listening. But getting out, I didn't have a problem with. The way you did it. And the lack of, it's the guy before me's fault. He signed a deal of which that you moved for about 3.5 months forward, where you could have done some other stuff. You pushed it out 3.5 months. You couldn't think about doing some of these things earlier? You didn't think for a second, maybe we should get them working on their visas. The people that we know that we need to identify that have to be out here ASAP. Start bringing them out earlier. None of that? No. And instead, you're like, the guy before me is not an answer. Frustrating. Very, very frustrating. I'm not a Biden hater. A lot of people out there are. I'm not. The moves, the way that this has gone down, this is him. This is you. Stop blaming the other guy. Stop blaming the Taliban, for not watching the security the way they were supposed to. Stop blaming the Afghan military that we essentially gave them a jobs program. Hey, can we pay your rent until you decide, hey, you want to fight with the Taliban? Are you cool with that? Frustrating. We should all be frustrated. Absolutely.
What do you think President Biden should do now in terms of the evacuation efforts, in terms of the response to ISIS-K, which has now claimed responsibility for this horrible attack?
I think President needs to work on a strategy, on a better evacuation plan. They should have put together a plan months ago, not now. What happened should have not happened. At the moment, it's a crisis happening. President Biden needs to put more force on the ground right now, not get people into the airport, but also save thousands outside the airport for dehydration and stamp it.
Yeah. Oh, you don't like the plan? Yeah, the plan was, we don't have a plan. Let's put people on planes and go. That's your plan? Mm-hmm. See, I think the thought process was, it's going to take them 11 weeks to get here. Maybe 12 weeks. They'll have to fight through some of ISIS-K, and we'll touch on them in a minute. They'll have to fight through some people who are going to be resistant to the Taliban taking over, and maybe some of the Afghan military. But it's funny when you listen to him, when he blames the military for folding, he never once thought that they were going to survive as the military that we thought we were training. He just didn't think it would happen this fast. So instead of having a backup plan, isn't there plan A, plan B, plan C? When you fly an airplane. So before 9/11, and I used to fly back and forth to England, my buddy Chris, my neighbor, was a pilot for British Airways, and then he was a pilot for Virgin. And I used to fly with him. It was great because the minute we took off and we got to cruising altitude, the stewardess would come up and go, you Mr. Benson? I say, yes. Come with me, please. And bring your stuff. And I'm like, what? And I go and I'd sit in the cockpit. And it was awesome. It was awesome. Again, pre-9/11. And he would tell me, he goes, we have plan, and then we have a plan. If something goes wrong, we have a plan B. If plan B goes wrong, we have plan C. All the way down, there's something. I felt like there was a half-ass plan A and then not a lot after that. And it was more, you're on your own. It was more, hey, you know what? You kind of do you, boo, and we'll see what takes place. So we went there with not really a clear objective to get out. We're great at getting into stuff. Look, America's great at stomping all over things. We're like one of those giant dogs, right? And it's just leveled perfect for the table with his tail. And it's spinning and it's hitting everything and it's knocking over a bull in a China store. We do a lot of stuff. We're neat. But at the end of the day, we broke a lot of stuff. A lot of people thought we were going to stick around. Yesterday, I want you guys, this was yesterday. Listen to the anger of these people who are Afghani, who feel like they've been thrown to the wolves.
Mr. Biden, you did this. You planned this. You made the deal with the Taliban. This is the consequences of it. This is the repercussions of it. Mr. Biden, it's your ill calculation. You were against Trump. Now we are against you. Go to hell, Biden.
They're pissed. They're angry because they feel like they helped us. And now what? We didn't make any friends over there after 20 years. We didn't change anything. In fact, on the way out, we probably pissed more things off and shook a lot of things up. And the way that we've broken a lot of these things, ugly. You know it, and I know it. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. A lot to get to today. More on this throughout the day. Obviously, more on the Delta. You're going to need a booster. You're not going to need a booster. We're going to talk about ISIS-K. Who are they? What are they about? Wait till you hear this. Scary. You think the Taliban's scary? Wait till you hear this. 323-538-2423 is your text line. Tweet at me as well, at Chad Benson Show. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Irreverent? Yeah. So what? It's the Chad Benson Show.
Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops.
Yes, ISIS-K. You don't know who ISIS-K is. Most of them are former Taliban soldiers. It's essentially ISIS. It's Taliban of Pakistan. It's the Taliban of Pakistan. And they do not get along. So the thought process, because we're sharing information with the Taliban. Now, we're not giving them information about where our soldiers are, what's going on, but we are sharing intel when it comes to where we think these guys are located. I say guys and gals, and forgive me for that, ladies, but there's no gals. And why are they evil? Well, first of all, they raise their children, in particular the boys. They call it their killer cubs. They're killer cubs. They like them having, my little one turned 3 today. That's about the age they would like to have them start killing. Oh, and there's videos of that. And the reason they're not a fan of the Taliban is because they think their form of Sharia law is a bit too soft. I'm going to throw that out there again. Your form of totalitarianism that includes enslaving women, murdering people, and ruling with an iron fist just is a bit soft. So there's a valley there, the K, the Khorasan Valley is the place that they would like to have set up as kind of right there as their own little world, away from everybody else. It's their fiefdom where they can rule, all the caves and the dirt mounds and everything else with their iron fist, walking around, making sure that women don't leave the house without 12 men fully covered. It's insane. So the thought today was, well, Taliban is protecting the outskirts of the airport, partly and mostly because they don't want their people leaving. They don't want their people leaving. They don't want their people getting out. They don't want their people because they've got retribution. They want to make sure those infidels pay. They don't like the fact that people are escaping the clutches. In saying that, they were supposed to be watching. They weren't. They weren't, or either two things happened. They weren't watching, which is always a possibility. Let's be 100% honest, no matter how strong they're supposed to be.
Hearing how proceedings were going today, it seemed like most of the gates were pretty closed. So the idea that an individual came through Abbey Gate, he was pains to point out that you could feel the breath on somebody's body. You are patted down with somebody in surgical gloves. Your bags are searched. Quite how this particular individual managed to, if it is the case, and how he was picked. No indication now the Taliban let these attackers through, but still a remarkable security environment around that airport.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't strong enough. So you had two coordinated attacks instantaneously, gunfire. The Taliban wants us to get out of there. They don't want to let any of their people go, but they want us gone fast. They're going to have to deal with ISIS-K, and that battle will rage on, and innocents are going to die. And it's a shame. It's a shame. We're talking about a group that is awful, a group that is so bad. And this is what we've done. We've put ourselves in a situation where we didn't have a backup plan or a real regular plan and then a backup plan to make sure that we got people out of there as fast as possible. And just in case stuff went south, what was the backup plan to that? We didn't have that either. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. More on this. Will Biden put people back on the ground? We'll talk about that. Did they get a lot of stuff that we've left behind? What do we do with that? New study out of Israel with natural immunity. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
There is not an end to our commitment to getting American citizens out who don't want, who are not ready to leave, and to getting partners out and those who have served alongside the United States over the last 20 years.
No end in sight. No end. Tell you what, though, people got hammered today. We're talking about, I think, depending on where you're looking, it's 13 that have passed away. 13 of our soldiers that have been killed. But let's not forget about the people that were there surrounding the airport, not the Taliban and not the ISIS-K member, but the Afghan allies. It was an easy target in the sense of a lot of people, one area.
The president's saying that 7,000 people in the last 12 hours or so have been evacuated, pulling out Americans, pulling out Afghan allies. So many of those Afghan allies were waiting outside the walls of the airport. They really were the ones who suffered the most here. There are reports of at least 60 people who have been killed, 60 Afghan civilians. If that number will likely grow even higher.
Yeah. And that's what it was. It's about the hell that they can cause, the disruption. See, the whole thought process is one of the things that is really pissed off ISIS-K even more was the fact that we had spoken with the Taliban, we had met with the Taliban, and we had cut a deal with the Taliban. How dare you talk to America? But they did. But they did. Now we have dead soldiers. And Biden can talk a game.
We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
It's frustrating. It's a frustrating situation. And again, I'm it's not about him getting out. It's about the way we did it. How we did it. It's about how we did it. And the failure to see, the failure that we're seeing now is that we didn't have a comprehensive plan. And they could talk a game. Oh, we did this, that everybody else is behind going, no. He's up there. Everybody else, Jen Psaki, like, yeah. And the people behind are like, no, we didn't. There wasn't the plan that you thought we had. There wasn't the plan. Our planes are flying in and flying out, and they're doing corkscrew maneuvers. So they're doing these maneuvers. Why is that? Shooting out flares because they're expecting potentially to be attacked. Speaking of that, flights.
These operations are continuing even after this attack, this twin attack on U.S. service members there. We know that there were at least 5,000 people inside the walls of Kabul airport. They are being loaded onto planes. The State Department saying among them were 500 more U.S. citizens. And the president said that they hope to continue these operations in the days to come.
We'll see what that looks like. We'll see. Again, a horrific situation that is not getting, the news isn't getting any better. And we, as we're getting ready to shut down for the night, to relax, they're getting ready to wake up. What are they going to wake up to? What is that going to look like? Is it going to be chaos on the streets? Is it going to be gun battles? Are our soldiers are they under attack? And what are they going to do with all the stuff? Let's not forget about the stuff. The stuff. Former soldier, he's a congressman now, talking about the stuff, because there is a lot of stuff that's still there.
We now know that due to the negligence of this administration, the Taliban now has access to over $85 billion worth of American military equipment. That includes 75,000 vehicles, over 200 airplanes and helicopters, over 600,000 small arms and light weapons. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world.
So let's think about that for a second.
The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world.
Can they use them? Can they operate them? And I hope we eviscerate them before anything happens. It's the one thing we need to do. We need to figure out a way how to destroy as much as possible. Destroy as much as possible. It gets worse.
But they don't just have weapons. They also have night vision goggles, body armor, medical supplies, and unbelievably, unfathomable to me and so many others.
And this is the scary part. Listen to this.
Is that the Taliban now has biometric devices, which have the fingerprints, eye scans, and the biographical information of the Afghans who helped us over the last 20 years. This administration still has no plan to get this military equipment back.
No plan to get it back. Still struggling with a plan to get us out of there. And they've got equipment and now the capabilities of finding out of every single one of the people over the last 20 years who helped us. That is not a win. Should all be frustrated, right or left, at this. The administration, at our government, across the board. We were there for 20 years. What did we get out of it? Soldiers died. Hundreds of thousands of people have been misplaced. Hundreds of thousands of people have been injured or killed in fighting there for centuries. It is a place that it's the 6th century. It's medieval. It's the kind of place where if people from medieval times came back, they'd be like, this place is awful. And now China's going to move in there because all that being said, there's $1 trillion of goodies under the ground. $1 trillion. of goodies. They've got a smile on their face. They're looking over thinking, weak is that guy? How weak is that guy? I'm waiting for them to roll into Taiwan. Say, it's ours again. What are you guys going to do about it? Frustrating. Frustrating across the board. We should all be frustrated. We have got an economy that is sluggish, ups and downs, stop-starts. We have got a porous border, to say the least. We don't even have a border. We don't. And we have Delta that is running wild right now in certain parts of the country. And parts of those countries, I'm fair to say, I look over there and I say, hey, it's a Republican state. You had a bunch of people who didn't want to take the vaccine, denied this thing was real, didn't want to do anything to mitigate the spread of it. And it's causing a lot of stress and pressure. But you're also having states like Oregon, not a very right-wing state. They're like, hey, you know what? Wear a mask outdoors, even if you're vaccinated. Excuse me? New study today about the Delta virus. New study. Bombshell, as they're saying. 76,000 Israelis, 3 groups, doubly vaccinated with Pfizer, the previously infected but unvaccinated, and the previously infected with only a single vaccine dose. They found that fully vaccinated but uninfected people were slightly more likely to have a breakthrough case. People who had been infected and received and recovered from the disease fared better. Natural immunity, they say, is longer lasting, stronger protection against infection, as well as symptomatic disease and hospitalization caused by the variant. If that's true, well, right now a lot of people are out there who are getting themselves, for all intents and purposes, sorted out, if you will. But it is not a good situation. And talk about a trying time if you're President Biden. And I say this because I respect the offices of the presidency. I do not want my president to fail. I also don't want him to be weak. You're dealing with some of the toughest things in modern times. One of these, the Delta variant, or coronavirus, was awful. Inflation, you want to spend a bunch of money, want to start taxing, we've already got a broken supply chain. That ain't a win right there. You're on the cusp of, and you've got the opportunity to turn some things around. You've got the opportunity to try to sort some things out. I want my president, no matter who he or she is, to win. I respect a lot of people out there when Trump was president couldn't respect anything he was about, or the presidency itself, or the office itself. Because he mean tweeted. He was a jerk. And he's evil and bad. And he's a meanie. I have 2 friends of mine who are very, very, very progressive. Both of them in the last 2 days said, this wouldn't happen under Trump's watch. And I was like, wow, I did not expect that. Again, it's not about pulling out. It's not about getting us out of there. It's about the way you did it. The lack of planning, the lack of a backup plan, the lack of follow through. We got a lot of that going on. Right now, we have issues with people in the hospital. Certain parts of the country are feeling the crush of what's taking place in these hospitals. You've got start-stops happening with the Delta virus, or the Delta variant of the coronavirus, that is causing businesses to rethink how they do things. And we're going to touch on that in a second. There is a lot of things going on. And it's all landing at your feet. And this is where you want the responsibility of and the weight of that office, you've got it. And for many of you out there who can't stand Biden and the Democrats and you want him to fail, that is un-American, just as much as it was with Donald Trump. If you wanted him to fail, that is stupid. You're rooting against your own best interest and the interest of the country so you can feel better. That's dumb. But the people will tell you if you fail, and they'll do that at the ballot box, and they'll have a chance next year. And at the rate he's going, that Senate is going to look way different than I think they thought it would look. And that House is going to flip right back over. And the thing is, Nancy will probably go, well, that's going to retire anyways. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Chad Benson Show.
If you like talk radio like Chad Benson likes his meals, you've come to the perfect place for takeout.
Days after Airbnb announced a program providing free housing to Afghan refugees, the home-sharing site opening the program to anyone, not just current Airbnb hosts. The initiative, through the company's charitable organization, Airbnb.org, aims to house 20,000 Afghan refugees worldwide. Hosts could elect to share their homes for free or at discounted rates. Normal Airbnb fees would be waived and costs covered in part by donations to the Airbnb.org Refugee Fund.
We were talking about this the other day when we heard they were doing this. Somebody said, would you put some people up in your house? And I said, if I had the room, I'd have no problem with that. I mean, you're willing to ruin your world in the sense of knowing that you're going to always have to look over your shoulder with the likes of ISIS and the Taliban around and always having that feeling. And you're willing to sacrifice like that, I'd have zero problems with that. Right? I mean, it would be an adjustment, but why not? Not living there forever. You can lend a hand. I don't have the room. I have zero room. Like, we're at the point, I'm like, I feel like we're becoming hoarders. Like, I think a lot of people I've talked to, like, over the coronavirus thing, they become hoarders. We're at the point was like we're getting ready to do like a big sale. Like we're going to get rid of a ton of stuff. And like I did the same thing with my reptiles because you guys listen to the show, I have a lot of reptiles. I'm like, man, I mean, and it's weird because normally I send my reptiles out to breed and to do stuff like that. And, you're going to send some out, it's kind of that thing. And then all of a sudden a bunch come back and you're like, oh, maybe I could get this, or there's a good deal here, or, oh my goodness. And I've always wanted one of those. And I didn't think one would come up. Oh my. Now I feel like I'm a hoarder. Although my lizard collection is very down compared to where it was. So, but it still feels like, everything on Amazon, like Amazon's at your house every day. I'm like, we got to get rid of stuff. And my little one turned 3 today. I'm telling you guys right now, she's more stuff. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. I do. Again, horrific bombings today. How many people of Afghan descent, people that were trying to get out of the airport, trying to get into the airport and out of the country were killed? Nobody can put a number on that. It is 60 and growing. Right now, there are 13 U.S. soldiers that are confirmed dead, more injured. It is not a good look for the president. Even today, when he came out, there was his empathy bucket is always full. We get that. It does feel like, though, this is something that seems to be eluding him at this point in time. He doesn't seem to be rolling with it the way that I thought it would. Like, we could talk about, everybody talks about, Obama. Let me tell you something. Obama was the reporter-in-chief, and Obama bombed a whole bunch of people. Now, he was against the surge, but he also got us into a bunch of wars. He put us in places we weren't before he got there. That ain't good. That was not good at all. So I want to see what this president does. Does he have something that he feels that he's going to be able to do without putting more people in there? Or are we going to do it? Like, don't half-ass it. If you're going to do it, do it. If you're going to go, go. If you're going to pull out, pull out. Have a plan from here on out, because the plan you have isn't working. And everybody seems to be on a different page of your plan. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet, text, Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
For those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests and our people with every measure at my command.
Earlier, Biden, his speech, trying to figure out how and what his next move is, which is a disaster. Something else I found to be rather odd was during his speech, he was going to go take some questions. And of course, as you know, we better write down all the names of the people that you should ask. You can ask the question.
Any American who wishes to get out of Afghanistan, we will find them and we will get them out. Ladies and gentlemen, they gave me a list here. The first person I was instructed to call on was Kelly O'Donnell, NBC.
What? The first person I was instructed to call on? In fairness, he allowed Ducey to ask a question, which, as we all know, is their pain in the ass. He is, so you had Jim Acosta, right, who was Trump's pain in the butt, was Jim Acosta. Ducey from Fox is the one that is the pain in the butt to Jen Psaki and to Biden. And Biden was playful with him today. You know, said, you're the most interesting man in the room kind of thing. And he goes, yes, I'm talking to you. And he allowed him to ask a question, which seems kind of silly. But remember, I mean, you've got so many of these people nowadays who are like, oh, I'm never, I would never go on Fox or do any of those things. I'm like, why wouldn't you? I mean, I won't, because I find those shows awful, all of them. Minus, I love Kennedy. But outside of that, I just can't watch any of those things. But why wouldn't you? I'm not running for anything. You are. That's the place you should be. If you think that your ways are better, if you think that your ideas are better, that's where you should be. This is why we get us and them. But he did allow him, to ask a question. And, of course, what are we going to ask?
Mr. President, there had not been a U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
Okay, so you're the president. How should you answer this? Yes, absolutely. I'm the president. I'm the leader. My responsibility. this should never have happened. We had a breakdown of communication. We had a breakdown of intelligence. This should never have happened. We should have been doing this earlier. We should have been moving people out earlier. We should never have been in this situation to allow the Taliban to get as close as they did to not only the airport, but the city itself without us pulling our people back months earlier. I take full responsibility in this 110%. And I'm going to do everything in my power to get everybody out, including the Afghans who've helped us. I'm going to do everything in my power to find the people that masterminded this and to eviscerate them and wipe them off the face of the earth. That's like an answer you should do. But yes, this is my responsibility. This is it. That's the way you should answer. Let's hear how he answered.
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. But here's the deal. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces.
Basically, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do.
Now, I have no problem with the pulling out. And I have no problem with him standing by the decision. Again, this isn't about the pull out, the not pull out. If we had no reason to be there in the way that we should have been there, if we were going to stay, you would have to sell it to the American people. Do I think that would be a hard sell? Based on this, probably wouldn't be. You tell the American people, yes, we're going to, for all intents and purposes, get a majority of our people out of there. But we are going to leave a skeleton crew and probably use some military contractors to make sure that some of the bigger cities are protected and that we do all we can to mitigate any of the damage the Taliban would want to do in bringing in and allowing fighters and terror organizations to set up root. If they want to live on the outskirts of town, if they want to live in the mountains, if they want to live in caves and fight each other, they can knock themselves out. You write your future in pencil, not pen. The reason is simple. You might have to erase it because we're going in this direction. But he didn't do that. He decided, okay, we're going to move out. Again, totally fine with that too. If you don't see a reason for us to be there, okay. Here's the other reason we should have thought about staying. China. We'll touch on that later. But China. We're worried about ISIS-K and the Taliban. China is something we should be worried about. So all that being said, whose responsibility is? Well, yeah, it's my, I mean, I'm the guy, you know, the dude, the guy, it's me. I'm the guy. But the guy before me, the tweeter guy tweeted all the time. Oh, he's a meanie. That guy, kind of his fault too. Mostly his. It's kind of his. I'll take the blame. I mean, it's my fault, but it's also mostly his fault. But if I could take that's what it felt like again. What kind of plan did you have? What was your backup plan? What was your B, C, D, E? Go all the way down. What were your plans? What were your plans? What were your plans to evacuate the men and women who helped us? Especially now, and this is scary. Listen to this. They were talking about the things that they have, the things that we have left behind. But one thing in particular caught my ear when it comes to the people that helped us.
Is that the Taliban now has biometric devices, which have the fingerprints, eye scans, and the biographical information of the Afghans who helped us over the last 20 years.
Scary. Very scary. Frustrating for a lot of people. And 13 soldiers woke up this morning and they died. Scores of Afghani people trying to get out of there died. They got through what was supposed to be a very tight security and let's be real, when we think of security, we think of tight security. And the Taliban's supposed to be running it. What do we think it is? We think it's one of these things where somebody rolls up and they've got that long stick with the mirror underneath it. No. And how do we know that they weren't already inside of the perimeter before any of this happened? People were asking, do they think they work together? Was this something that seems to be where they were in cahoots? Biden did not think so. We share our information right now when it comes to where ISIS-K is with the Taliban. We don't give them deep information about our stuff, but we are sharing information with them about ISIS-K. And if you don't know what ISIS-K is, they're an offshoot of ISIS who, for all intents and purposes, is a bunch of former Taliban fighters who believe that the Taliban is weak. They believe that their form of Sharia law is soft. And they got frustrated getting their asses handed to them time after time by the allies, by the Americans and the Brits and everything. And they got frustrated. So what they did is they fled further to the valley into Pakistan and the Peshawar Valley and everything. And that's where they stayed. And they built up this. And let me tell you something. They've got some 250 attacks in Pakistan. So this is a formidable group that even ISIL says, we're not really associated with them because of the brutality that even makes them go, oh, my God. And this is coming from people who are medieval. So think about that. So are they working together? It's possible that somebody with inside the Taliban feels that they have a better way of doing things. It is absolutely possible. But do I think that coordinated from the upper management, if you will, of the Taliban? I do not think so. Because the Taliban wants us out of there because they know they're already going to have their hands full with other groups. They're going to see, power vacuum, and they're going to go try to slide in there and take advantage. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the show. A lot of stuff still to get to. A man wanted to prove a point about masking up in Texas. Wait till you hear what he did. We're fighting over masks and vaccines. Chad Benson Show.
Podcasts are American as hot dogs, apple pie, football, and sushi.
Oh my goodness. No.
Okay, maybe not sushi. Next time you have a craving for something sweet and tangy, download a Chad Benson Show podcast.
Boy.
That is good. It's different because you get a little bit of saltiness.
It's so good because it's sweet and salty at the same time.
Get a taste on iTunes, iHeart, or Spotify and binge to your ear's content.
Oh, yeah.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
We don't have any information at this point in time, and that has not changed over the last couple of hours to suggest that the Taliban had knowledge of or was engaged in or involved in this attack.
Yeah. Were they? Again, you can't put it past somebody who, remember, the ISIS group is just ex-Taliban members. So could there be people within the Taliban? I mean, they're familiar with each other. Some of them in the higher ups know each other and they don't like the way that the Taliban does business because they feel they're too soft. You guys are too soft. You should be more angry like us. They could use a little yacht rock. I was thinking that earlier today. A little yacht rock wouldn't hurt them, right? Just sit back and relax for a little bit. Just cool off. A little Christopher Cross. You can't be angry, right? Well, it's not far down in paradise. And you'll be like, oh, wow, hold on. I was going to blow you up. At least it's not for me. Chad. How is everybody else reacting? Well, the Germans have stopped evacuations. Remember, they're allies when it comes to the war on terror.
Coming out of his emergency cabinet meeting, the British Prime Minister called the attack brutal, an attack that killed, among others, U.S. Marines.
We extend our condolences both to the United States of America and to the people of Afghanistan.
And despite the terrible loss, Boris Johnson says he's determined the British airlift will not stop for now.
We're going to continue with that operation.
Tom Rivers, ABC News, London.
Yep. So, Boris Johnson, like everybody else, the Germans are stopping, but we're pushing forward as best that we possibly can, as we should be. And then the other side of things, you've got the Brits who are not stopping. And I don't think right now, for some of these nations, that they're really trusting America has not the capability, but the leadership to help them get their people places. And this was telling. This was yesterday. This is an Afghani group of people who are angry and they're pissed. And they thought that this was going to be a situation where they were going to get out. They had their stuff. They followed the rules. They helped out. And now they feel like they're being completely abandoned.
Mr. Biden, you did this. You planned this. You made the deal with the Taliban. This is the consequences of it. This is the repercussions of it. Mr. Biden, it's your ill calculation. You were against Trump. Now we are against you. Go to hell, Biden.
Yeah. Pissed. Go to hell, Biden. You could see him today. He's in pain. He is devastated. You can hear it. The one thing that he does better than so many is he's got his empathy bucket. That was it. Trump doesn't. Trump doesn't have a bucket. He has a strainer. Just there's a hole. There's a hole in it. He's got his bucket and that is always overflowing because he's got so much empathy. But there were real issues here, and he can be empathetic.
They were part of the bravest, most capable, the most selfless military on the face of the earth. And they're part of simply what I call the backbone of America. They're the spine of America, the best the country has to offer.
13 of our soldiers killed, others wounded. Who knows how many Afghans? And you could tell he was hurting, and he's frustrated. Because I think he thinks at times, like, are they really mad at me? Like, and it's funny because there's some people out there that are just like, oh, yeah, that's you're good. I don't know who. Again, this is not a personal attack on him. Although there are some issues I'm raising with him when it comes to, some of the cognitive abilities. I know he's not as sharp as he used to be, but I do have to ask some questions about certain things. In saying all of that, it's fair to ask some questions about the way that you've handled this. It's not a personal attack on you. And when you keep saying, well, it was the last guy that did it really because he signed that deal with the Taliban. Okay. But you're in charge, so we're going to go with you. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. One of the reasons we might have stayed there has zero to do with the war on terror and all to do with where we are going as humans. Talk about it straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
What do you think President Biden should do now in terms of the evacuation efforts, in terms of the response to ISIS-K, which has now claimed responsibility for this horrible attack?
I think President needs to work on a strategy, on a better evacuation plan. They should have put together a plan months ago, not now. What happened should have not happened. At the moment, it's a crisis happening. President Biden needs to put more force on the ground right now, not get people into the airport, but also save thousands outside the airport from dehydration and stamp it.
Yep. Ahmed Rabi, he's a counterterrorism analyst, and he didn't really have a plan. And you know what they say about planning, right? If you don't have a plan, right, you should plan to what? You should plan to fail. And our plans seem to be, at best, I think we just took it for granted that they were happy to see us leave and they were just going to let everybody walk out. And I also think that Biden really did two things. Either he's ignorant, right? So he's ignorant. Or he just didn't believe anything the intelligence community gave him, that they were going to fall the way that they did. Those are the only things I can think of. Because I think it must be in his mind, and I'm trying to, I'm sitting here trying to do a fair job of going, what's going through your mind, bro? What's going through your mind? Bro, hey, bro, what's going through your mind? And I'm thinking to myself, does he think, and did he think that there was going to be enough of the military that was going to fight off the Taliban long enough that eventually everybody would be evacuated, and that somehow, once that happened, like they were giving us cover, because he said he knew. He goes, well, I didn't think it was going to fall as fast as it did. Well, you expected it to fall? Well, I did. Well, then why didn't you plan earlier? If you expected it to fall, why didn't you plan earlier? For a longer process of moving people in a more subtle way without the crush of people and the chaos which led to what's going on now. If you knew that, why did you not plan for it? Or he's just ignorant. It's kind of the choices. You can blame the guy before you. You can blame the guy before. By the way, Trump did not get us in this. Tried to get us out. Biden pulled the trigger on getting us out, and I applaud him for that. He said, I don't want to be here any longer. 70% of Americans are like, yeah, well, I don't think so. You're not telling us why we should stay. So, okay then. Somebody asked me, do you think we should have stayed? I said we should have kept a small group, enough of a group of people to do two things. First, do what we could to protect and help the Afghan people that not only helped us, but the people that are trying their hardest to have some semblance of a life where, you're a female and not essentially chattel. That would be one. Secondly, and this is something that should have been talked about and should have been thought about and should have been paid more attention to. China. Here's the thing. China wants to be the dominant force in the world. That's their goal. They make no bones about it. We're not pretending. They're an authoritarian regime, communist regime that is in their mind the most powerful and wants to be the most powerful. The reality is they're still a long way away from us militarily. But just because we have it doesn't mean we're going to use it, and vice versa. Nobody's interested in getting a prolonged war. But we have two ways we can go in this world. And many people thought the way that Biden has done this, the UK last week said, America, you just gave China the world. You essentially ceded power to them. Those are the two ways that we can go. We can go our way or we can go China. That's the fundamental question that's bigger, if you will, than the fight for terror at this moment in time. There is $1 trillion plus, if you will, of minerals in Afghanistan. Of minerals. And we're talking about things like the largest reserve of lithium, iron, lead, tantalum, tungsten, copper, mercury, amethyst, emerald, ruby, gold, silver, uranium, coal, peat, petroliferous. They want that. They don't like America. Good partnership right there. But what about the Uyghurs? Well, you would think, right? Here's the thing. China doesn't do what they're not trying to go. They're not talking about pronouns, right? They're not talking about like, hey, what's your pronoun? They're not talking about, what you identify as. They're doing none of this. They don't say, oh, you're xenophobic or any of that stuff. China plays to win. We've kind of gone a different route, which is we're playing to appease. We're playing to appease. And it's frustrating. It is. It is very frustrating. But when you look at what they have and the fact that they're making an uneasy alliance and that they're in the Taliban's ear. Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, yeah. They're there. They're there. The Taliban wants sanctions lifted in certain parts of the world. By the way, the Taliban spokesperson said a senior official from the group met with the Chinese ambassador in Kabul. What? They discussed the security of the Chinese embassy and the diplomats in the current situation in Afghanistan and bilateral relations and China's humanitarian assistance. They've softened the ground and they want closer ties. And the way they're doing it is, hey, you know what? You guys do what you want to do. We're okay with that. What we would like to do is to come in and help you extract all of those beautiful minerals and incredible things, your rare earth things, and you'll get some money, which will keep you guys awash in bullets and death, and we'll have dominance. So if you'd asked me, should we have stayed? I didn't want to be there for 20 years. And unless you're going to pitch the world something that says we're doing this for this reason. But if you were to step back and say China's throwing $60 billion projects in neighboring Pakistan, right? Taliban's promising, don't you worry, we're going to make sure that any kind of terrorist attack that's plotted against you, we're going to come up with. Oh. The one thing they'll have an issue is they're still a very medievalish group. You know, Al-Qaeda, when they moved in there, Al-Qaeda was different. Al-Qaeda had Osama bin Laden. A lot of the fighters from the olden days, if you will, the freedom fighters that took on the Soviets, a lot of those men were educated in the West, grew up to privilege that people in Afghanistan never saw. So when you saw Osama bin Laden, the reason they welcomed him back there, he'd run out of places to go. Africa didn't want him anymore, right? He'd become their Che Guevara. It's like, this guy's over here causing all kinds of crap. They were offering him up all over the place. They offered him to us. But they felt they had a duty and obligation. Oh, man, you know what? You came here. You fought for us. You supplied us with money. You were a hell of a fighter as far as they were concerned. You went out and you've demonstrated that you weren't just a money man sitting in the back. But there was a certain sense of they understood some stuff. You know, you're not getting a lot of that with the Taliban. And China will do its best to, I'm sure, pull everything out and pull a fast one on them. because they can. And they said in the past when they've tried to do certain things, they've appointed people that were what? Unqualified to do things like this. So we'll see what takes place. But do I worry about terror? Well, there's going to be a power vacuum there, and there's going to be some terror that's going to get out. And don't be surprised if we don't see some issues. Will there be destabilization throughout the Middle East? I don't know about that. But if China grabs more lithium, they already have all the cobalt, they are dominating. And when you look at all the things that we have to do in our supply chain and the more that we have to go to them to get stuff, and not just us, but the globe, that's an issue. That's a bigger issue long term. One is micro, the other's macro. Small, short, tiny. Look at this right here. Macro, big picture. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. A dad goes to a school board meeting to talk about masks. Wait till you hear what he did. Discuss it straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
You stink like fear and white male privilege to me.
I do often out myself verbally as a gender. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm proud to be a gender.
Are you stupid?
What? Are you kidding me? Not a great way to use your white privilege.
Some people get it, some people don't.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
I love that gender thing. We should play that thing from yesterday. Steve is filling in for producer Phil right now. Steve, I don't think you heard this. We do Woke Wednesday, and we like to make fun. It's not making fun of people, the gender stuff, right? Because again, the sex gender thing, we talk about that all day. It's the insanity of which everybody expects you to follow along. They want you to care as much as you do. I just want to know your name. That's it. What's your name? Nah, you got to know everything else. Not just about the name. It's about all of the other things. So here's that.
I like pronouns just being used interchangeably for me. I mean, my default is they, them. But, like, sometimes I have more femme days, sometimes I have more mask days, sometimes I have more NB days, sometimes I just, like, who knows. But sometimes I do like she and he used, which is why I'm getting, like, pens to put on my jackets and whatnot. I had this pen, which now is outdated, but just don't use those. He, she, they. My default is they, so if you use they, basically you can't go wrong.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Yeah, that right there is everything I think you need to. We're sitting here arguing. We have people that have died today who woke up and were there protecting us, protecting our people, protecting and they're dead, blown up by a scumbag who decided today's the day that he's going to blow himself up. And he did. Today's the day that he was going to it's vile. It's disgusting. It's awful. And we're worried about he, she, they, them, there, them, they. Again, I don't care what you identify as. I don't get the whole thing, though. It's like, why can't I just call you whatever your name is? So if your name is Tim, I can't just call you Tim? Apparently not. You must know. I just always think that's whenever I hear any of those things where they talk about stuff. And speaking of fun, here's some other stuff we're arguing about. Father, Dripping Springs, Texas. He's going to a school board meeting. What are we arguing about? Anyone? A mask.
On the way over here, I ran 3 stop signs and 4 red lights. I almost killed somebody out there. But by God, it's my roads too. So I have every right to drive as fast as I want to.
So he's making a point. It's his roads. He can do whatever he wants. Right? Because everybody else is doing whatever they want. Right? You don't want to wear a mask? That's fine. You want to put people in danger? It's fine. It's his road. He can do the same thing.
At work, they make me wear this jacket. I hate it. They make me wear this shirt and tie. I hate it.
He then proceeds to go Slapshot. If you've never seen the movie Slapshot, some of you will be laughing. You're like, oh, my God, that's right. In the movie Slapshot, it's about a minor league hockey team, the Chiefs, and it stars Paul Newman, and it is hilarious, the Hanson brothers, but so much of it's about fighting. And their best player, he's just kind of over fighting and doesn't want to do it anymore, and he just sits there because he's just kind of done with it. In the championship game, he strips down, skates around in his jockstrap. It is, this guy's trying to prove a point, kind of about the same thing. So what does he do? Strips straight down and continues.
If you would mind putting your pants back on for a comment, that would be appreciated.
All because we're talking about a mask. All because of the mask. Now it is because of the vaccine. Will you? Won't you? Should you? Could you get your child vaccinated? Should you get your child vaccinated? And there's now a debate about that. Israel just did a massive study. Right now, the peer-to-peer reviews are going on. But according to the study, 76,000 Israelis, 3 groups, doubly vaccinated with Pfizer vaccine, infected but unvaccinated, and they're previously infected with only a single dose. Guess what? People who were not COVID positive at one time, but did get the vaccine, were more likely to have a breakthrough. People that naturally were immune were less likely. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. And what they're talking about, that Professor Balloon said, is if this is real, then there's questions about whether or not children should be vaccinated. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Mr. Biden, you did this. You planned this. You made the deal with the Taliban. This is the consequences of it. This is the repercussions of it. Mr. Biden, it's your ill calculation. You were against Trump. Now we are against you. Go to hell, Biden.
That was yesterday. The Afghani people outside the airport, pissed, angry, stressed out, understanding what was coming, potentially. Yesterday, stuff started rolling in. Hey, there is a chance that ISIS may attack. All the Americans were told, get home. Get out of here. Go to your house, to wherever you are, your safe place. Do not be here. Today, 15 of our soldiers are injured, 13 are dead. Numerous Afghanis are killed. They're frustrated. Did we just put a group of people who feel like they're being abandoned by us and facing hell from the Taliban and ISIS, did we just light a firecracker for them? also something to think about. The suicide bombing was calculated. It was quick. It was almost instantaneously, followed by gunfire. Biden spoke.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests and our people with every measure at my command.
It feels like it's not real. Like, I don't know if I believe you. I don't know if I believe you. The plan that you put together seems to be a lack of plan. That's the plan that seems to be put together, is there really wasn't a plan. There really wasn't anything concrete. It was more of, well, we're going to, over the last 2 weeks, we're going to get ourselves out of there and we'll move some stuff. And it seemed like you were taken back by the Taliban and the speed of which they zipped through very little resistance, and that you thought, maybe that would take them several weeks to get to Kandahar and Kabul, but instead it took several hours, it seemed like. And now we have people over there, and we're not just talking about our people. It's not just about our people. We have people that we made promises to. We had people that we made promises to and that we have failed. And now those people are not only at risk. Guess what the Taliban has?
Is that the Taliban now has biometric devices, which have the fingerprints, eye scans, and the biographical information of the Afghans who helped us over the last 20 years.
Think about that. Now they got everybody's information. Phenomenal. Why do they have all this stuff? Let's talk about some of the stuff, too, as we have left and are leaving and currently not slowing down, don't seem to be enforcing, not quite sure what we're doing. The speech she gave today reinforced the fact that, yes, we're getting out of there and the timeline remains the same, but not much else to that other than we're going to come get you, which sounds great, but it's about an action plan. And I'm not even talking about, again, take away whether we should have been there or shouldn't have been there at this point. Look at it in a different way. Was this the best way for us to leave, knowing we were supposed to be out in May, got extended till the end of August, and we had several months to get this thing ready, and it seems to be that they're still trying to figure out visas, things of that nature. Do you think this was the best way we could have done it? Let's talk about some of the other things, like the goodies they got.
We now know that due to the negligence of this administration, the Taliban now has access to over $85 billion worth of American military equipment. That includes 75,000 vehicles, over 200 airplanes and helicopters, over 600,000 small arms and light weapons. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world.
Wow. It's very frustrating I think for a lot of people when you start to hear, oh, wait a minute, we're not taking our stuff. You guys ever see the movie, was it the Benghazi movie? Was it 13 hours or whatever it was? 12 hours? I forget what the name of it. But at the end of the movie, after all the hell they've been through, the firefights, all of that stuff, they're at the airport. How do they get to the airport? They get to the airport in what? In a G-Wagon. Right? Let's just take a look at what a G-Wagon costs. If you were going to go get a G-Wagon today, MSRP, $133,000. Realistically, you're probably paying $160,000. At the end of the movie, they're getting ready, they're laying there on top of the hood, just sitting there, So these kids roll up, right? And they're loaded for bear. And they look at the kids and they toss them the keys to the G-Wagon. We weren't going to take it all. No. But you would have thought at some point in time, you weren't going to let, if you knew this was going to go down and they weren't going to fight, that you would have figured something out to do with all the stuff. You would have thought, I don't know if we should leave it all here. Now they have tons of weapons, and people say, well, that's not a big deal. I mean, they don't have pilots to fly them. No, probably not. China does. Oh, yeah. Our airplanes were left over there. Yeah, there's those. Yeah, things of that nature that you think about. You should have thought forward. And that's all. That's my biggest criticism. I mean, it wasn't going to be perfect. At the end of it, there was always probably going to be a rush. There was always a probability that something might happen. But it felt like there was no plan from the beginning. And when asked again today about a thing called responsibility, when asked again today about, hey, let me ask you a question. And look, kudos to him that he went to Ducey from Fox, right? Who's Jim Acosta to them. Kudos to him for at least doing that.
Mr. President, there had not been a U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. But here's the deal. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces.
Basically, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody at this moment in time, because most people are like, why are we still there? We're spending all this money. The micro, the macro, and nobody really sold them on, hey, there's a reason why we're here. Here, and whether it was we want to make sure that the terrorism doesn't take a foothold in here, or we want to also make sure that China doesn't get a foot in here. Whatever it was, nobody sold it. So let's get out of there. Fine. Again, I think it's tough to nation build in a place that is medieval and that wants nothing to do with democracy, freedoms, even any monicum of what would be seen as individuality and any kind of equality for women and any other group. They were never going to have it. Okay. But this wasn't a surprise. And this is a mess up. Oh, Chad, you're being hard on the president because you're a crazy right-winger. I'm anything but a right-winger. If you listen to the show, you know that. I'm a no-winger. I always joke about being in the alt-middle. I give you the truth based on facts and data, which sometimes change, obviously. And I'll give you my opinion, and I'll be strong about it, and I'll back it up. What I'm not going to do is say to some people out there that, you should have a disdain for this president because they've got a D or an R by their name. What you should do is hold their feet to the fire when it comes to the responsibility of the office they hold, and in doing so, be able to call them out on it. And if it's your party, definitely call them out on it. But don't just call them out on it because they're a different party than you. I want my president, and Biden is my president. I didn't vote for him, but he's my president. I didn't vote for Trump, but he was my president. I want them to succeed. But if they don't, criticize. Now the test begins. What is your reaction to this? Because judging by that and your talk about, well, we're going to come and get them and don't you worry, what is your action from here? That's the thing that will matter. We've taken a punch today, and over the last couple of weeks, it's not just me and the crazy right-wing talk show hosts, everybody says, or the Hannitys of the world. No, the rest of the world is questioning certain things about this administration and the way that this went, and they have every right to, because they have skin in the game. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. COVID still running wild. We'll touch on that. Booster shot, should you get one? And with a new report coming out of Israel, if this report, which looks to be pretty good, is all it's cracked up to be, the question will be, do kids need to get vaccinated? Chad Benson Show.
I usually don't get into politics. As an ordinary suburban housewife, I feel a little disrespected. I teach my children not to name call.
You are a blabbermouth!
Come on, man.
Guys, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum?
Chad Benson.
Hearing how proceedings were going today, it seemed like most of the gates were pretty closed. So the idea that an individual came through Abbey Gate, he was pains to point out that you could feel the breath on somebody's body. You are patted down with somebody in surgical gloves. Your bags are searched. Quite how this particular individual managed to, if it is the case, and how he was picked. No indication now the Taliban let these attackers through, but still a remarkable security environment around that airport.
Yeah. The suicide bomber, and then at the hotel, coordinated. How is the question? Well, two things could have happened. Three. One, they're just the security they thought that the Taliban had out there really wasn't that secure. Secondly, most of ISIS-K, if not all of them, are former Taliban fighters who don't like the Taliban because they're too soft. Well, what's that? So how does that happen? Well, I'm sure there are people inside the Taliban that may not be thrilled with all that is the Taliban. So you could have had them allow something to happen, or you could have even had them say, hey, look, we'll do it. This guy over here is super excited to blow himself up. He is. He's got a wife and a couple kids. He can't wait to blow himself up. And you could blame it on us. And they're like, hey, that's not a bad idea. Or he was already inside. He was already inside, in and around the airport. And you could even have a thing where somebody did it. And ISIS taking advantage of it, but chances are he was probably already inside of that perimeter there. It's a possibility. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me, text the program. All that being said, you've got a big report out of Israel, and it has to do with vaccinated natural immunity. So the battle between them.
Can you explain whether or not it is okay for all 12-year-olds to get the vaccine?
The Pfizer vaccine now has been actually licensed for 15 years of age and older. The 12 to 15-year-old age group is one that is approved emergency youth authorization, for which we expect full approval to come in the near days ahead. When we get a bit below that, then the doses are going to start reducing some. The only side effect that those vaccines have had has been a type of inflammation around the heart called myocarditis. It's very, very rare, and it's typically very mild.
Now, why did I play that and then talk about Dr. Osterholm there and then talk about the Israel study? They're looking at 76,000 people that have had the natural immunity, meaning they caught it, they weren't vaccinated, they fought it off, they've got antibodies the natural way. They also looked at people that didn't catch it, but did get the vaccine, and they're looking at people that caught it and got one shot. Out of those, the 3 that had breakthrough cases the most, no natural immunity, both shots of Pfizer. And if this is to be believed, as they talk about it, this may change the way we look at getting children vaccinated, because if they could build up a natural immunity, that would be a game changer. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
They have a very narrow canal and it leads to one entrance through the gate. There are thousands and thousands of people there, cheek by jowl, all desperately clamoring to try and get through, waving their papers, waving their passports. They're even stood knee-deep in the sewage there. Anyone who is able to get inside that crowd and detonate an explosive device is likely to have inflicted significant numbers of casualties.
Yeah. So, second explosion, gunfight. ISIS-K seems to be the perpetrator of this. If you don't know who ISIS-K is, it's kind of an offshoot of ISIS.
It became, in the words of, I think, the British Armed Forces Minister, it was very, very credible warning of an imminent threat from ISIS-K. It's basically just a branch of ISIS that's operated in the country. They did issue a message earlier in that last week saying because there was cooperation going on between the Taliban and the Americans that they saw both as a target.
Yeah, by the way, they're sworn enemies. The Taliban wants nothing to do with ISIS. That was one of the things that Trump talked about. Let them kill each other. That's what they want to do. If we have to go back in there because you let somebody set up shop, let them kill each other. Let them run around shooting and kill each other. How bad's ISIS-K? They like killing babies, and they raise their children and the youngsters, as they call them, killer cubs. Little ones. Scary. So, a lot of people are saying, well, how did this happen? Because doesn't ISIS control everything around there? Yeah, they do. They control everything around there. And the thought process is no Afghanis were getting in. No, really nobody was supposed to get in and out and around the airport. They were shutting everything down. And if you were getting in and out, there were certain things that you had to comply with. Usually if you're a foreign national in some way, shape, or form and you're leaving the country, you're probably going to get through. If you're an Afghani, chances of you getting through are probably slim to none in certain areas.
The Taliban is obviously in charge of security out in town, and they either failed or were in compliance with this.
Yeah, I don't think they were in compliance at all. Here's what the Taliban want. They want that country for itself so it can have the dream of the 6th century realized with modern weapons. They want to rule with an iron fist, but they want to be recognized by the world, and they don't want anybody else coming in and ruining their party where something could leave that country, get essentially traced back to them, and then have to pay a price. And let's be honest, at some point in time, the price isn't going to be boots on the ground. Take that forever you want it. But at some point in time, you got to go. And you can't deal with people who only know fighting. You can't deal with people who have a distrust for one another, let alone a distrust from anything in the West. And the only language they speak is fighting. That's it. They're not speaking anything else. You're not getting a kinder, gentler Taliban. You're not getting a Taliban that's out there going, hey, you know what? I definitely think we should get these ladies all educated up. I definitely think we should get them all, driving around, living their lives, shopping, having fun, getting them on the gram. No, you're not getting that. You're getting a modern look at the 6th century. It's kind of what you're getting. Instead of rocks, they've got guns, bullets. Oh, yeah, and we also left them an Air Force. That's what we've done. 5,200 soldiers currently in and around the airport on the tarmac. They're still trying to get some planes and people out of there. I don't know what that's going to look like. It was already becoming tougher. They were doing corkscrew maneuvers. They were shooting out flares, trying to avoid missiles. And that was the next thought, is that this ISIS-K was going to shoot a plane out of the sky, which, that all lands where? It'll land on the ground in Afghanistan, but it's all going to land at the feet of the Taliban. So you've got people injured at a second explosion at a hotel. You've got civilians that have been, most likely, we're going to find out that the civilians have been killed. We've got 3, as we know right now, soldiers that are injured. Outside of that, we have no idea if there was any other foreign nationals that were injured. There's firefights going on, and it's chaos. Because it's not like everybody's wearing special uniforms. It's like, oh, yeah, you there you are, and there you are, and you're wearing a flag of this, and you. No, it's not that. Everybody's kind of running around, all blending into each other. They've got the beards. They've got guns. And they're shooting. We knew this was a possibility. Well, that possibility's arrived. What happens from here? How many people are over there that are foreign nationals? Not just us, but our allies who have helped fight this war for 2 decades? What's that look like for them? And what's Biden's response going to be? I think the world's wanting to find out what that's going to be. Are you going to have a real response? Is it going to be a response of, well, we knew this could possibly happen?
If they attack the checkpoint, they're trying to cause military casualties. If they attack the Barron Hotel, they're trying to cause civilian casualties. But well coordinated, near simultaneously detonated, and perhaps with some gunfire to follow it up.
Yep. Ugly. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. While that's going on, we're battling in a different way. We're fighting each other. It's like, should you wear a mask? Should you not wear a mask? Should your kid get vaxxed? Should they not get vaxxed? Should they? Shouldn't they? What's the science say? What doesn't it say? That's the chaos that we're dealing with. I mean, think about what we're dealing with compared to what so much of the rest of the world's dealing with. Dr. Elstrom.
Can you explain whether or not it is okay for all 12-year-olds to get the vaccine?
The Pfizer vaccine now has been actually licensed for 15 years of age and older. The 12 to 15-year-old age group is one that is approved emergency youth authorization, for which we expect full approval to come in the near days ahead. When we get a bit below that, then the doses are going to start reducing some. The only side effect that those vaccines have had has been a type of inflammation around the heart called myocarditis. It's very, very rare, and it's typically very mild.
Yeah, but nobody wants to hear that. But the reality is this is, this is what we're talking about at this moment in time. We've got parents stripping down butt naked, arguing at school board meetings. This is great. Guy goes from talking about how fast he drove his car and all the laws he broke to get there because, he's allowed to do that, and trying to prove a point about, hey, why not, right? If you can do this, why can't you, why should you be forced to do anything else? To the point where once he starts doing that, talks about it doesn't like his jacket, doesn't like the tie, doesn't like his pants.
At work, they make me wear this jacket. I hate it.
Oh, we hate that jacket. You don't look good in that.
They make me wear this shirt and tie. I hate it.
All right. Well, then take it all off. Oh, he did, kids. Oh, he did.
If you would mind putting your pants back on for a comment, that would be appreciated.
Our stuff is so petty. Chad, it's not petty. We're all about protecting our freedoms. Yeah. Not saying we don't have freedoms. With freedoms come what? Great responsibility. We all want to get to the same place. Nobody wants to wear these damn masks. We don't want our schools closing every other week. We don't want to sit on an airplane for 10 hours. 5 hours, 2.5 hours in the airport, right? Driving there, you get there, and you're going to fly cross country to New York or to Florida or somewhere like that. You got a 4-hour, 5-hour flight. You're going to be an hour in the airport on the other side. The mask is on the entire time, minus eating and drinking, and you're frustrated. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, but that's where we are. That's what we're dealing with. And, it's a frustrating thing. You've got businesses having to make decisions now based on not selling their widget, based on, okay, what's best that's going to keep my place open, but knowing full well the minute that I do something that some part of the community is no longer going to like me because they're going to see me as either a person who is the death cult because I'm not requiring certain things, or I'm subservient to the man and they're never going to buy their products from me, and it is frustrating. And then we've got that data thing, which seems to get in the way of everything.
Not one person, this is an important number, not one person in this country has died as a result of the 185 million people who received the vaccine. I wish aspirin had a safety profile that good. And so we have to emphasize these vaccines are incredibly safe and they are incredibly effective. And the worst thing you want to do is watch your child in an ICU struggle to make it to the next day.
Yeah. Now, this thing isn't killing any more children. It's just affecting a lot more children. And children are surviving this thing. But, yeah, like everything else, the net is so much wider. It's easier to catch. It's frustrating for a lot of people. We need to put our pettiness aside, figure out how we can deal with this thing. But there are people out there that it doesn't matter what you do. They're going to ask a question. Is this thing safe? It's very safe. Yeah, well, I heard. Who'd you hear it from? I know somebody. Was it you? No, it wasn't me. But I know somebody who knows somebody. Okay. Can you find me that report? Right? Because if that happened to somebody, shouldn't we see it? Shouldn't they be? Well, that's what I heard. Saw it on the internet. All want to get to the same place. We're not getting there because we're too busy fighting each other to get there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Raycon, best earbuds around. Wear my Raycons all the time. They're doing a lot of work today. I'll have my Raycons on. They're charged up. I got my little case. Just throw them in there. So you charge your case up, right? So it comes this little case. You get your Raycons. Best earbuds, no stems, no wires, easy to charge up. The case will give you up to 4 full charges. So you're not tethered to something. Pop them in, do my stuff. Rarely, are they, they always say, it gives you, 6 hours of talk time. It seems to go on forever. Rarely do I have to charge these things, it seems like. I'll get through a couple of rounds of golf, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. No stems, no wires, 45-day happiness guarantee. They start under $70. If you want the best earbuds around, do not hesitate to go to buyraycon.com/Chad and grab yourself some Raycons. You will not be disappointed. The noise isolating fit, the control, the sound, the design, second to none. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
We're stranded at home. We can't get to the airport. When we try to get to the airport, we either get beaten up or we're afraid for our lives. For 4 days, 4 days, we didn't hear anything from anywhere. And then they're saying to go to the airport, but we're not being given clear guidance. They're saying one thing, and then the next thing they come and say something else. So you really exactly don't know what to do. There's a lot of miscommunication going on.
Yeah, well, we're talking about vaccines, we're talking about masks, talking about this. These are people that are stuck in a place that is war-torn, since forever, trying to get out. It's an absolute mess, and then you throw ISIS in the mix. And what do you have? You have a recipe for disaster. We're supposed to be out of there on the 31st. I will let you guys know. That is Tuesday, right? So you have today, but it's already pretty much tomorrow over there, right? Dark. So you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You got about 4.5 days or so to not just get us out, do all we can to get the people out that helped us and risked everything, as well as other foreign nationals who fought alongside us and helped us. And now you throw ISIS in the mix. It is a disaster. And it's going to potentially get worse. People are looking and asking, what's the next move? What is the next move from the president? What are you going to do? How do you react to this? What happens with the evacuations, which were already tricky?
It was already difficult. It was already dangerous, almost impossible for many people to get through. And this is going to have an impact, without a doubt, on the evacuation mission. It seems hard that you can continue to bring people safely through that gate, which was already a struggle, knowing that there are ISIS elements there intent on inflicting mass casualties.
So you have ISIS-K, bloodthirsty, awful, also a big believer in the 6th century. You have the Taliban. They're mortal enemies. They want nothing to do with each other. You've got 2 explosions. What they're saying is a complex attack that took place. 2 separate bombs going off nearly identical time. One suicide vest, maybe. The other one driving a car. You think about that for a second. And people say, you know, we should be in conversations. That's what someone said the other day. We need to be sitting down talking. If you are willing to strap a bomb to your body, if you're willing to tell people inside of the world of which you live that you are going to go see Allah, and in doing so, he's going to award you all of these great gifts. Here's the sacrifice you need to make as a martyr. You need to strap this to your body, go out into a area of which there is a lot of people who have done nothing to you, and blow yourself up, and people gladly do it. That's scary. You're probably not having a conversation the way that you think. Probably not. It'll be interesting next couple days. The weekend's going to be interesting. And is the Taliban going to push back? Are they going to go on the offensive and clear out ISIS? That's a question because, again, they're mortal enemies. They want nothing to do with one another. ISIS wants to have a certain area for itself. They want to have essentially their own homeland. They're a little bit more modern. They live like it's the 7th century. The other ones live like it's the 6th century. It's not very nice, Chad. And think about this. If you're over there in Afghanistan, think about the desperation. If you have a child, if you understand the brutality that's coming, if you have a young girl, of what's coming and what you're facing, the impending doom, and maybe you thought, oh, help out the Americans. I don't believe in this. I can't stand this group of people. They have taken Islam and they've ruined it. They've spun it because they're more gangster and killers than they are religious leaders. And you know what's coming. That's why people are willing, in the face of potential suicide bombers, to stand in a group of people desperate to get the hell out of there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. I do. You guys have a good day? Oh, thank goodness. I see Friday. Night-night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.